in between. Very good afternoon to everyone present here. On behalf of SLC Shamlal College, I, Dr. Monica Goyal, welcome you all to the third day of this national workshop on emerging trends in science and technology, issues in these unprecedented times, which is organized under the aegis of DBT Star College Scheme. It is my immense pleasure to introduce our eminent resource person for today, Dr. Rahul Johari, Head of the Software Development Cell, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, Dwarka, Delhi. Dr. Rahul is teaching at University School of Information and Communication Technology in the university. He is PhD from Department of Computer Science, University of Delhi. Presently, he is the head and founder of Swinger Security Wireless Internet of Things Network Group of Engineering and Research Lab. He is Microsoft Certified Professional and ODEM Certified Blockchain Faculty. He was awarded with Best Teacher Researcher Award at the GGSIP University for the academic year 13-14 and 14-15. He is the recipient of the Faculty Research Grant Scheme of GGSIP University for the academic year 16-17, 17-18, and 18-19, and 19-20. He was chosen for Albert Nelson Marquis Achievement Award for the year 18-19 for professional excellence in the field of computer science. He has 4 international patents published to his credit. His 5 research papers have been adjudged as best research paper in international conferences. He has delivered over 60 keynote invited talks in reputed foreign universities, which include Moral Churchill College, Cambridge University, UK, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, and more, and in Indian government universities and research organizations like NIT Hamirpur, Indian Institute of Public Administration, JNU, DTU, Delhi University, JP University, and many, many more. With 71 Scopus indexed publications, 20 book chapters, and over 100 publications in leading IEEE, Springer, Elsevier, and ACM indexed international conferences and journals of repute, his current H index is 12. Sir, it's a great privilege to have you here. Sir, can you please keep your video on? Dr. Rahul?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Sir, please.
Ma'am, there's actually problem with the there's a problem with the video, so I will malfunctioning.
No okay. So it's a great privilege to have you here with us today. And we are all eager for your, I'm sure, very interesting and informative session, which would be loved by both students and faculty participants alike. Well, I would have loved to introduce you to our principal, sir, but I guess he couldn't join for some reasons. So if he joins, then I would definitely introduce you and the participants with the principal of a college, who's the guiding force behind this workshop. Okay, now I invite Dr. Rahul to conduct his session. Dr. Rahul?
Yeah, ma'am. Good afternoon. So thank you for such a nice introduction about my own self. It's great listening. Thank you so much. So good afternoon all. As ma'am has rightly introduced, myself Rahul Johari. I'm working with Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. And today I will be sharing something about the cloud computing. So those of us who are already familiar about the cloud computing, I hope they will enjoy, as well as the new ones, especially the students who have joined us. I think it will be a good introduction to them also, if they want to venture into this area. Ma'am, is it visible, the screen?
Yeah. Screen is visible.
Fine. Yeah. So as Monica has already introduced, myself Rahul, I'm working with IPU University Dwarka. This is my mail ID, rahul@ipu.ac.in, and my phone number. If you've got any doubt regarding my session, you can always drop me a mail or text me regarding any of the points or queries if you find about any problems in my talk. So first thing first, we'll start with the cloud computing. So real credit goes to two persons by the name Timothy Grants and the Peter Mill. So they were the first who actually gave the proper technical definition of the cloud computing. Before that, it was there. Many people were talking about it when people were using it, but the real proper technical definition of the word cloud computing was missing. So if I'm a novice, if I'm a beginner, and if I would like to venture into this era, so I will share the URL.
Rahul, can I disturb you in between?
Sure, ma'am. Please go ahead, Hanji.
There is some disturbance in the audio as well.
Is it so?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
Oh, okay.
Please see
Is
if
it
you
okay
can,
now?
you can
Is it
check
okay?
I think there is some network issues at your side.
No, my side is fine. I am able to listen to you properly.
Really? Okay, you continue, please. Then there's a
Is it
slight
fine? Is it
disturbance.
okay?
Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay,
Please,
okay.
please continue.
Yeah. So as a beginner, as a novice, as well as an expertise, we should always go to the NIST. They have set up a laboratory called Information Technology Laboratory, in which they have got a Computer Security Research Centers, what we call CSRC, wherein they have given the proper definition what cloud computing is all about. So it was published way back in the September 2011. Initially came by 2002 by both of them, but proper published in literature in September 2011. And here you will find a good long definition covering around 5 lines that how they perceive and how they visualize the cloud computing in the 2020s and even in the beyond. But definition is so vast so that I don't think so that it's going to change, because they have almost covered everything what the cloud computing actually expect from the cloud service providers, what we call CSPs, as well as by the users. So we'll see, but then we must go through the URL. This is important. Yeah, ma'am, please.
Dr. Rahul, the slideshow has disappeared. Now this thing is coming.
Okay, okay. Right.
Yeah, right.
Now yeah. So he was also nominated for the ACM Turing Award. Now we all know who are working in the area of computer science. We do not have a Nobel Prize in computer science, just like physics, chemistry, and biology. We do not have a Nobel Prize in the area of the computer science. So there was an organization by the name ACM called Association of Computing Machinery. They have instituted an award called as the ACM Turing Award, which is given every year in the area of the computer science for doing some excellent, outstanding research in the area of the computer science. So they started the award somewhere in 1965, and right now it's 2020. So if you look around more than 50 years have passed, by around 55 years to be precise. And considering the number of engineers which churn out every year from the engineering colleges, right from the IITs to triple IITs to NITs and multiple number of central and state government universities, we must bag around 15 to 20 awards. But it's so disheartening to say that we have been able to receive only one award for doing excellence research in the area of the computer science. And that too was by Professor Raj Reddy way back in the 1994 in the area of the artificial intelligence. And that too when he was not in India, he was based in US at that point of time. So our history and our track record as Indians is really bad in the case of bagging the top-notch award in the area of the computer science. So as a workshop is dedicated to the science and technology, and computer science is a part of it. So first and foremost, open question that actually comes is what is cloud computing? Is it a science or is it a technology? To my understanding, because its understanding varies from person to person and the experience also varies from person to person, computer science per se is not a science. We are more an application of mathematics. And if you go venture into any of the subjects, right into the depth, maybe it's software engineering or databases or programming languages, any other subject you take, at the bottom, it's all mathematics as such. So a person who is good in mathematics, he's bound to excel. Rather, not only excel, he's just will fly high in the area of the computer science. And that is why in the early days of computer science, it was normally dominated by the persons who were all mathematicians. Right from the IITs to triple IIT, they were the department of mathematics. Even in the Delhi University still now, we have got the faculty of mathematical sciences, and within it, we have got the department of computer science as such, because we are more application of mathematics. We are not pure sciences, unlike the physics, chemistry, and the biology, which actually pure sciences. So we are more technology, the demand of society, the need of the customer. So as the need of the customer keeps on changing, the requirement changes. At the same time, we also evolve. So we keep on evolving. So cloud computing is never a science, it's always a technology domain as such. So what we are studying, learning and exploring in the year 2020, the things will might change in 2025. And again, things might change in 2030. So we keep on evolving, we keep on changing. So change is the best word to describe the computer science, because we keep on tracking and we keep on helping the other services and sectors of the societies. Now, if I am a novice and I want to venture, first thing it's where I should start off. So instead of going to Wikipedia and many other URLs which are already there, in India we have got an organization by the name Cloud Computing and Innovation Council of India. It's called CCICI. They are doing a very good work in the area of cloud computing. So as a student, as a faculty, or even as a person from academy or industry, we should actually go into the portal of the CCICI. They will give a brief insight, the kind of work they do, the kind of workshop, seminar, conferences they organize, the kind of task force they have set up. So it's good to be a part of this organization where I can actually learn many, many things. So CCICI is very good in the case of India. Both the type of memberships are available, faculty as well as students. So we can actually go into that and learn more about it. Now let's come to the proper definition. What is cloud computing before we go to the deeper understanding of it? So we say it's a model for enabling convenient on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources. And what are the computing resources? We're talking of networks, servers, storage, applications, and services that can be rapidly provisioned and released with a minimal management effort or service provider interaction. So I have highlighted some keywords which I think should be understandable before we go into the proper meaning and understanding of the cloud computing. Now, first is on demand. That means when I'm asked for it, it should be provided to me. It should not be readily available for me. Only when I need it, it should be provided to me as such. So it's more like I go into the McDonald's or any other fast food joint as such. So services are there. Self-service is there. I need to go there, take a place an order, make a payment, and then take the delivery of the goods as such. But services are readily available for me as such. So on demand means we wait for the customer to come. Only when he comes, then only we provide the services to him. We do not directly go to the customer. Unlike the traditional restaurants, where actually you go and have a sitting table and waiter comes and he takes the order to you. So there, it's a different in the fast food joint as well as traditional restaurant. So we wait, so here everything on demand. So me as the user will have to make a formal request to the cloud service provider for providing me with the resources as such. Now, whatever resources he provides, I require a network. So we say a web connectivity, a proper broadband internet connectivity is required to get access to the resources of the cloud service provider. Now, what resources we are talking of? I've already done an example: networks, servers, storage, application, and services. So these are the resources which are provided by the cloud service provider. And depending on my need and requirement, they can provide one resource or they can provide multiple number of the resources. We'll discuss more about the resources as we move on to the session. Now, but all the resources we say normally are classified in two categories. Now, either it should be paid or free of cost. Now, unfortunately, in the cloud world, rarely anything is free. So we expect the customer to bear the cost. Now, customer can have a PPU, what we call pay per unit model. He can bear the cost per minute basis, per hour basis, per day basis, per month basis, depending on his need and requirement. So most of the cloud service providers, now who are the cloud service providers? We all have the multiple giants like Google, the Amazon, the IBM, the Microsoft. They have already invested millions of dollars in setting up their data centers, which are actually the cloud service providers, and they've spent a huge amount of money for us. So we can approach them, we can request them, and the services will be provided to us. Now there's a word, what we call rapidly provision and released. It's something like this: I want it, I don't want it, I want it, I don't want it. So more like an elastic condition. So you stretch it, you compress it, you stretch it, you compress it. So services can be rapidly provided to you And again, if you don't want them, they will be released from you as such. So depending on the client's requirement, the services will be keep on, the services can be increasing, decreasing, depending, scalability is there. Whatever the customer says, immediately the services will be provided to him as such. But they're always available 24/7 by 365 as such. So the cloud model promotes availability and is composed of some essential characteristics, which we will discuss, and the three kind of the service models as such. So we'll have this kind of a diagram. It's by the NIST only. So if we start on the left hand side, or rather let's start from the middle one. The first is the deployment models. So as of the cloud and the public cloud as such. Even there are certain cloud like hybrid cloud, which is a combination of all these clouds put together. We'll discuss more about them as we move on. This is just an initial slide to get an overview of the bird's overview of the cloud computing domain. Then we'll have service models. Now service can be three kind of service: software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. So three kind of services have been provided in the cloud computing domain as such. Then some of the essential characteristics which should be a part of every service model. First is an on-demand self-service. Now we can come to the left-hand side of the slide and we can see here the customer is there and he's sending a request to the cloud service provider that I want service some resources from you. Now resources could be like the networks, my switches, routers, gateways, storage area. Storage could be my primary storage area or secondary storage area, the hard disk space, the printers, means anything and everything that can be provided as a service by the company to the user is a part of the cloud computing domain as such. So here the word computing is a misnomer, is a myth. We are not computing anything. So we are not doing any mathematical calculations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. Here computing actually means you are computing the resources. As a cloud service provider, what all resources I can provide to my end users as such. So accordingly, three kind of the service models have been defined. We'll have a software, platform as an infrastructure. So that what does that mean? A cloud service can provide three kind of the broad category of services to me as such under the platforms of software, platform, and infrastructure as such. So ultimate objective is to provide access or provide a content using a multiple resources. Resources have to be shared by the cloud service providers to the end user as such. So first thing, let the client ask for it. That is what we call on-demand self-service. Now, when the client requests, let's say client make a request, I want 1 GB of RAM, 2 CPUs, and 60 GB of the hard disk space, because client cannot afford it in his desktop or laptop. So he has asked for these services from the cloud service provider. Now, if we take an example of India as a context, now we have got something called Meghraj Cloud. Meghraj Cloud is a cloud by the NIC. It's a very beautiful cloud. They have indigenously designed and developed in India. So full credit and should go to them. Other clappings and cheers should be go to them that they have been able to deploy and design good cloud called Meghraj. So whenever you are free after the lecture, just Google it. Even I will try to show it, given a time factor, we have got the demonstration of the NIC Meghraj Cloud. So I can register there. I can become a member of because they require my information. So I will have to register there, and then only I can access the resources provided by the Meghraj Cloud. Now, if you come to the third point first, it says metered uses. Now, metered use means depending on the kind of the services I want. Let's say I want 1 GB of RAM or 2 GB of the hard disk space, and I require 2 CPUs. So this is my order to the NIC Meghraj Cloud. So I will be billed accordingly. So these are the resources I am using per month, per minute, per hour, or per day. So it will be a metered usage for me. So keep on charging according to the kind of services I use from them. If you take an example of electricity in our house, it's also metered services. So they keep on keeping a track. How many number of ACs are switched on? How many number of televisions I've got in my house, the refrigerator. So depending on the usage I have got, I will be metered accordingly as well. And most of the metered, if you see, I've got two kind of the prepaid and the postpaid. So same way here, we'll have certain amount of the money which we need to pay to the service provider first before we start using them on our systems. Then if you look at the second one, ubiquitous network access means a services that is providing anytime, anywhere on the earth. You just have to contact them. Network access is there, so we can have the multiple kind of the broadband network connectivity through which the client can be connected to the cloud service provider. Another is the fourth option, what we call elasticity. Now, cloud services which is being provided to the client. Now, client may not have a clear-cut idea. So, for example, he's working in some software company. He's designing a project. Now, he requires resources for that project as such. So, initially, he may not have the clear-cut idea. So, he might ask for basic services as such. Then, depending on his need, he might ask for more services. Then again, he may not ask for some less services. So, this keeps on going and increasing and decreasing. So, elasticity phenomenon depicts the usage and the consumption of the resources, which can vary both in terms of the time as well as in the terms of the money. So he might build at a higher cost for the low services, or bulk services might be provided to him at a cheaper cost, depending whether he's a regular client or he's a one-off client who comes to the cloud service provider. Then we have got resource pooling. Resource pooling is something possible only in the IT world, because here the resources are not tangible in nature. If you compare our IT industry and computer science with any other traditional branch of engineering, like electrical engineering, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, their resources are tangible in nature. Their machines will be there. You cannot have a multiple logical instances of it. But in computer science, using object-oriented programming, we enjoy that phenomena of doing a resource pooling. I can create multiple instances of the same class, and I can share the instances of these class to my clients. And we know in object-oriented programming, each and every instance of a class will share a same copy of the member function, but all of them will maintain a unique copy of their member variables. So for the client, he will never ever come to know that I am creating multiple logical instances of any given resource. For him, the resource is dedicated in nature. He will never ever come to know about it, that yes, the resources are continuously being shared among him and many other clients at the same point of time as such. That's the beauty of the resource pooling, because resources are logical in nature, the resources are intangible in nature. So it is always becoming easy and flexible for us that I can share the resources with the multi millions of clients simultaneously at same point of the time as such, which may not be possible with any other branch of the engineering. So that's a beauty and the advantage we enjoy in the computer science using a resource pooling concept. Even those of us who are working in the server side programming, we are all aware that we use the concept of the resource pooling on the servers, and millions of clients connect, and then we are able to handle their request response paradigm using the resource pooling. Now let's try and understand each and every service model. I will try to make it very simple so that there is no problem with the diverse faculties and audience we have got in our today's workshop. First is software as a service. So simple word, it means cloud service provider is going to provide a software as a service. Now, can I modify this software? The big question that comes, the answer is no. We can just view the software, we can just use the software, but I cannot modify or change the contents of it. So the capability provided to the consumer is to use the provider's application, which is running on the cloud infrastructure. And the applications are accessible using a cloud devices, client devices such as the web browser. So browser will, user will open a browser, type the URL, reach out to the service provider, and service provider will give a form. You fill a form and you request what all services you want using a cloud computing domain. So the consumer does not manage or control the underlying cloud infrastructure. So what does that include? CLI, the cloud infrastructure, we say network, servers, operating system, and the storage. So he cannot control or manage any of these resources. So some of the typical examples are Google Apps, Salesforce, Nevio, Learn.com. Now this is a point where user is just an end user. For example, WinZip and WinRAR. We all use zip tools as such. So when I want them, I just download them. I don't worry about the concept that in which programming language the code has been written, which is a server on which it has been deployed, and they're all provided free of cost. So they're not going to charge anything for us. Most of them services when I'm using as academia and research, they're all provided as free of cost, unless until I work for some company where resources are paid, just like Adobe, where almost all their software come with a free trial version of few days, maybe 7 to 15 days, and thereafter they start charging here. So when I as an end user is just using the software which is provided as a free of cost to me, by the cloud service providers. And who are the cloud service providers? The big giants like Microsoft, the Google, the Amazon, the IBM. They are the vendors who are providing the cloud-based services as such. Now, as an end user, I'm no more end user. I venture and I start growing as a programmer. Now, I want to design my own applications. This is where the platform as a service steps in. So it's a capability provided to the consumer to deploy onto the cloud infrastructure what the consumer created or acquired application. So I can design my own code, I can write my own code, or I can capture some of the application of the open source, and then I host it onto the cloud service provider. So these applications can be created using programming languages and tools, or they could be just dummy applications downloaded from the web, and they can be installed onto the cloud service providers and as such. But here the programmer has a say. He can write his own code. He can design his own application, which is not possible in the software as a service. So, but here also the consumer does not manage or control the underlying cloud infrastructure. So that will come into the infrastructure as a service. But yes, he can demand the things. He can ask for the things which will be provided to him. So here consumer has a control. Who is a consumer? The end user who are using the cloud-based services. So consumer has a control over the deployed applications, and possibly more applications can over the deployed application, possibly application hosting environment configurations. Now, what does it mean? Suppose I'm working in Java. I write JSP code, Java Server Pages code, and I want to deploy it onto the Apache Tomcat server. Now, I can do it on my machine, but since I'm providing a network-based services to my clients, so what I will do, I will approach the cloud service provider and I say that I have got my code ready, Java Server Pages JSP code, and I want to deploy onto the servers at your place. So I will buy out the web space from the servers, and I will host my JSP code onto the Apache Tomcat server, which is provided by the cloud service provider, because I'm working for commercial purpose. Otherwise, the Apache Tomcat server also comes as a free of cost for my host application, for my desktop applications. But for commercial enterprise application, I require a licensed edition of the server. So the cloud service provider will provide a server to me, and I can host my application onto their end. Let's take another example. I am working on a website and I write the code in PHP. So once my code is ready for deployment, now I don't have a licensed server because I am a faculty member working in academia or research. So what I will do, I will approach the cloud service providers and I will say, provide me with the XAMPP server or the WAMP server. And so that I can deploy my PHP application onto this server as such. So this cloud service provider will provide me the hosting environment. I can go to them, I can approach them, I can write a return request to them, and I will be billed accordingly. So let's say I want to host my website for a duration of 1 month. So I will be charged for 30 days, just like one of the best example, DigitalOcean server is there. Heroku server is there in India when we as Indians approach. So there are billing exclusively for Indians also. So roughly they charge 500 rupees per month. So you can host your own website and then design your own website and host onto these servers, and they will host and the services are good because you will never ever come to know that information provided is not from your end but it's from the cloud service provider. So seamless connectivity is there, and they will ask me how many number of clients are likely to log in. So and what is our security mechanism and what is the log trail which has to be maintained. I will tell them explicitly. They will charge me appropriately, and my site can easily be hosted on any of the cloud service provider and as such. So that's the way how we approach towards the cloud service providers in a platform as a service category. So suppose the typical example could be Windows Azure. For example, I write the code in C++ or Visual C++ using Microsoft Visual Studio that provide me with the Windows Azure environment, and I can even host an application in that environment as such. Now, third comes infrastructure as a service. Now, it provides the capability to the consumer to provision processing, storage, networks, and some other fundamental computing resources as such. And the good thing is that consumer is able to deploy and run arbitrary softwares which can include the operating system and even the applications. So infrastructure service provide everything. So I can deploy my own servers, I can deploy my own operating systems. Or it could be the Windows operating system if you're working for proprietary editions, or it could be Linux environment if I'm working for the free and open source. And the consumer does not manage or control the underlying cloud infrastructure, but controls over the operating system. So we are looking for a environment where the consumer can have a control over the systems, the storage, the applications, and the networking components also, which include the routers, the switches, the gateways, the firewalls. So everything the consumer can actually control, and they will be provided by the cloud service provider, but consumer will have a full control over the working of it, the configuration of it, the deployment of it. So he is a king over there, and accordingly he'll be charged or billed by the cloud service providers. So that is what three kind of services we have got. Software as a service, where user has a minimal control. User is just a viewer of the software. He can just download the software. Now software can be proprietary or the free and open source. Now when we use the word free and open source, we say free to use. Like WinZip and WinRAR utilities are free to use. But if I want to modify the code of it, I cannot use it. But when we use open source means the code is also provided to you, source code. And depending on the need and requirement, you can modify the code as per your choice. So we got multiple number of the Linux kernel like Ubuntu, is Fedora, Gentoo. So here source code is available. I can modify the code, I can append the code, I can delete the code. So we use the two words, free and open source. So whatever is free may not be open source, but whatever is open source is bound to be free as such. So depending on my need and requirement, I use either for free category of software, or I use the open source category of the software as such. Now, how the software will be provided? We have got three ways. Software as a service, where it's all you or we as an end user are just the viewer. I cannot control the environment, neither I can control the applications. In the platform as a service, I as a programmer can design my own code, maybe in the Java or advanced Java, or maybe let's say ASP.NET. I'm good in ASP.NET. I write my own code for designing of the website, or maybe I'm a PHP programmer. I design a website in a PHP, and or maybe I'm a simple servlet or JSP programmer in advanced Java, and I design a website or I design a web application, and I want to host it. So for hosting, we require a platform, and that platform will be provided by the cloud service providers. So it could be Apache Tomcat server, the XAMPP server, the WAMP servers, the BEA, WebLogic servers. So there are the multiple, and each and every server costs in the lakhs of rupees. So me as an end user cannot afford them at my own end. That is why they will provide me with the servers, and I will use them for, let's say, a period of 1 week or 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and they will charge me the appropriate amount of the money. Then third and final is the infrastructure as a service, where cloud service providers give me full access to almost everything. So I can have a say for the operating system. I can have a full control over the deployed application. I can have a full control over the hardware and networking components like routers, switches, gateways, and the firewalls. So, but still I'm not owning it. I'm not the owner. Owner is still the cloud service provider. But yes, over the larger network infrastructure, now I have a control. So infrastructure service include both the platform as a service as well as the software as a service. So it's a superset of almost everything. So the typical example, we can have the Amazon Elastic Cloud, EC2, GoGrid, Island, Rackspace Cloud. Many number of the cloud service providers are providing the infrastructure as a service. Now let's take a simple analogy to understand this technical concept. Let's say you just moved to a city and you're looking for a place to live, right? That's a simple example. I have just got a job in Gurgaon and I'm looking for a place to live. Now for me as a software engineer, three options are there. So what are the options? Either I built a new house right from the scratch, or I buy a flat in a Gurgaon city, or just I can live in a hotel. If I can afford that much amount of money, or if my company is paying me, I can simply afford living in a hotel. So when we're about to live in a hotel, living in a hotel is a good idea if only thing that you care is enjoy your life, and everything is provided to you before you by the time you enter into the hotel, all the services are ready. But so there's nothing you can do except for the house living in it. That means all the services are readily available for me, and I just pay them and use them. So this analogy matches to our software as a service category as such. And one fine day, if I don't like particular hotel, I switch on to the other hotel. I stay there for 5 days. I enjoy the life there and the liberties provided to by the hotel to me. Again, I still don't like it. I move on to other hotel as such. So I am the end user who has got a good big pocket money, and I'm ready to pay to them. And then uh, instead of giving the feedback, I don't enjoy the services. I just move on. So there's no long-term contract or agreement between me and the hotel. So I will be billed or charged on the number of days I stay in particular hotel. Same thing goes for the software as a service. Free softwares are easily downloadable. They will not charge you. But for the proprietary softwares, yes, I will be built according to the requirement I have and the number of days I will use a particular software as such. Just like, for example, a MATLAB I use. So I need to pay to the MATLAB company, MathWorks Incorporation, depending on the number of the libraries I'm using. Toolboxes, MATLAB provide toolboxes. So I use number of toolboxes I use. So I can have the perpetual license. And so license agreement will be signed. And that is what we call the SLAs, service level agreements, which will be provided or signed between the both the customer as well as the cloud service provider as such. Now, another option for me is when I move on to the city, I can buy a new flat and stay there as such. So here I can customize some part of my house, but I can never change the original structure. So let's say I rent out a flat. So I will bring in the refrigerator, the television, the double bed, the couch, dining table, everything I bring in from my own side as such. So the infrastructure was already available for me. I just moved in with the necessary equipment or the necessary necessities of my life so that I can stay comfortably there as such. So somebody provided me with a residential space and I moved into the residential space. I signed an agreement and then I start living it there as such. Now this analogy matches to our platform as a service, wherein the software applications are designed by the programmer, but they're hosted onto the servers provided by the cloud service provider as such. Same way here in the when I rent out a flat, let's I sign a rent agreement for 11 months with my landlord. So for 11 months, I will be paying money to him, and he will provide me the necessary infrastructure. So the entire house will be there in place with all the electricity and water connections, and I will just move into the house and stay there till a duration of the 11 months. And certain clauses are also there which that any of the party can terminate it at some point of time after paying some of the penalties as such. So same way here, the SLA will have the terms and conditions that none of the parties should break the agreement in between, and both the parties should fulfill the agreement. Another option is I start building a house right from scratch. So here I will have the full control over everything I would like to have my house look like, but that requires sheer hard work. So same way it goes to our infrastructure as a service. I as a programmer, I as an end user will have a full controls over the software applications, which I will write in PHP or Java or ASP.NET. So I am a programmer, I am writing the code. Then I will have I as a full programmer have a full choice on the deciding on the operating system. I will have a full choice on deciding on the servers, which I would like to, the configuration of the servers. Plus, I will have a full control over the networks. So all the networking and the inter-networking component like routers, switches, gateways, plus how to reach out to the customers. So I will have full control almost everything as such. So in infrastructure as a service, we always give full control to the end user that you decide everything as such. Same way when I'm building a house, I'm taking all the pains. So I will buy a plot of land and I will approach an architect, get a blueprint design for my house, then approach to some contractor who will actually build the house for me. But that house will be as per my need, as per my choice, as per my requirement. Same thing goes to the infrastructure as a service, where customer is a king, provided he is able to take all that pay. So if I'm living in just a hotel, so that goes to software as a service. If I'm living a life as a tenant, that goes as a platform as a service. And if I'm building the house from the scratch, that goes as a infrastructure as a service. But here also, I'm not the true owner of the land, because if you see in India, most of the municipal corporations, they lease out the land on 99-year basis. So, and they keep on paying property tax to the municipal corporations as such. So they are the real owner of the land, but I have taken the land from them. I've taken a plot of land from them, and then I have built a house. And then I can live in the house. I can design the house as my comfort and convenience. Now, having discussed three kind of the models, the platform and the service and the infrastructure, let's look at the public perception of the cloud computing. The myth is a lot of computing is involved because the name itself is cloud and the computing. But in reality, if we look at from the software as a service point of view, it actually means accessing of the free and the open source software or the proprietary software. So here software as a resource will be provided from the CSP, the cloud service provider as such. So when we talk of software as a service, so we are only talk of the accessing, means fetching or viewing the free and the open source software for which I don't have to pay anything to anybody, or I can use a proprietary software which is licensed to use for a particular period of the time. So that is a resource which is being provided by the cloud service provider to me. If I'm talking about platform as a service point of view, what does cloud computing actually means? Everything what all SaaS provides, the software as a service, plus it also includes hosting of the application after proper testing using the VAPT tools. Now, what is the VAPT here? We say vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. So that's a full form of it, VAPT, but it's popularly written as VAPT only. Vulnerability assessment and penetration testing on the web servers, which are all deployed at the cloud service provider end as such. So I will design an application and I will host it where after proper stringent testing using the VAPT tools. Now, what is the significance of the VAPT tools? Let's say I have designed a website and I would like to host it onto the NIC server. Now, what should I do? The first step is, first of all, proper website should be designed. So either I should be skilled in a programming language, maybe the Java or advanced Java track, or the Microsoft terminologies track where we talk of the ASP.NET and the ADO.NET. So I need to be skilled in any of them, or I can approach some of the companies like GoDaddy is there, and many other companies who design the website for a particular price of tag. So you pay the money to them and then they will design a site for you as such. But once the site is ready, I need to approach to the service provider. So they will say me, okay, we are not sure of your site, that whether it is free of any bugs or defects or any error. So you get it a safe to host certificate. So as a customer, as a consumer, I need to get a safe to STH, safe to host certificate for my website. So what do I do? There's a company called CERT, if you have heard the name, Computer Emergency Response Team. Their head office is based in Lodhi Road. So they have listed around 25 vendors all over India. TCS is one of them. So I approach them and I submit my entire source code to them of the website. That this is my source code, kindly test it. Is there any bug in it? Is there any fault in it? Is there any error in it? So what do? They use certain softwares. Both free softwares are also there and the proprietary softwares are also there. And they do a proper VAPT, what we call vulnerability assessment. They will find out the bugs and defects in my softwares. And penetration testing means they will deploy the code in a real-time environment and they will see, is it vulnerable to certain attacks from hackers or crackers? So they will keep a track of it. And they will properly test my website for security concerns also. Now, if they find my website perfect, no problem is there, then they will give me the safe to host certificate. Now, I approach the cloud service provider and I say, my website is right, it's perfect, because I also got a safe to host certificate. Now kindly install the code of my website, the web app code, web application code onto the servers at your end. So I will show them the digital certificate of safe to host, and then they will have a look at it, and now they will deploy my website onto the servers. And then I require a domain name. So I require a domain name which I can share with my end users, which my clients. If I'm a business entity, I need to share the domain name. So I will get a domain name from them, either a multiple number of organization which nowadays charge for the domain name in the .edu domain if you want, .in domain if you want, .org, .com. So many domain names are there. So I can approach them and I can pay them the money, and they will give me the domain name to use for a 1-year basis or 2-year basis. and then I can share that domain name with the clients. Now the clients can access my website, which have been hosted onto the cloud service providers end, and the clients can access the data or the content of my particular website. Then public perception of the cloud computing and what actually it means. Let's have an infrastructure as a service. So what we are actually talking of in reality is all about the efficient allocation, management, and the distribution of computing resources using the infrastructure as a service. So what are these resources we are looking for? First of all, storage space, primary as well as secondary storage space. So it could be the RAM or the hard disk, or the number of CPUs I want. For example, if I want to do any kind of parallel programming, I'm doing at my home. I'm writing a research paper where I require a work on quantum computing, and I want to do parallel programming using multiple number of the CPUs I require. Now, in my system, the desktop and the laptop we have got our home, we have got only one CPU as such. So, but my programming require multiple number of the CPUs. So I can approach the cloud service provider. I can pay them the money. Let's say I want it for 3 weeks. So they will charge me accordingly for 3 weeks, and multiple CPUs will be provided to me. Or it could be the servers like WAMP server, the XAMPP server, the Apache Tomcat servers, so BEA WebLogic servers. We got multiple number of the servers. Pramati server is there. So all these servers, there are two. There are enterprise editions and there are free of cost edition. So when we as a teachers use it for giving a demonstration to our students, we use a free of cost, the FOSS based software. But if I'm designing an application for the enterprise edition, so it should be hosted onto particular domain, onto the multiple server as such. So I require a license edition of the servers. And yes, the access to multiple networking components and the hardware resources such as printers, switches, routers, gateway, all over the web. So internet is a backbone for the cloud computing because here everything gets done on the web base. So internet, good proper internet speed, a high bandwidth is requirement is there for carrying out a proper sharing of the data or the resources using software as a service, platform as a service, or as a infrastructure as a service. That's how the three kind of the domain service model successfully work. There's certain people who have raised hand. Yes, please feel free to interact. If you've got any question, you can unmute yourself and ask me. Any question?
Rahul, can we take questions in the end?
Okay, sure, ma'am. No problems.
I'm inviting questions on the chat box.
Okay.
So we'll take it in the end. Huh?
Right.
Okay.
Fine. And now let's look some of the government of India's initiative, what they are doing, because we are most of the time I hear my student as well as the fellow colleagues say that we are not doing much in this area, and we are mostly dependent on the multinational companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, IBM. Now, since the audience is diverse in computer science, these are the top-notch companies, and actually they govern the entire trends in the IT industry. So they decide on which technology has to rise and which technology has to be pulled back. Because if you look at the Microsoft, Amazon, IBM, Google, Infosys also to some extent, Apple, so they are the market leaders. So entire 85% of the revenue of the IT industry or the world goes in the bank account of these top 5 or 6 companies only. So they dominate the market. They decide on the technology, which technology will rise, which technology will fall, how will the trends going to come. So they are the market leaders. So they are the benchmarks we just follow that what they are dominating us. So it's all $1 million money business actually in the IT industry. So they dominate it. But in academia and research, we are far off from these things. We work for the research purposes. We go into the depth of everything. We are not worried about the market trends. But yes, they influence us, no doubt about that. So there's these are some of the good labs in India we have got. We have got NIC initiative, what we call they have got Meghraj Cloud. This is a good initiative by them. So if I will just show you what Meghraj Cloud is. Can we see it on our screen? Is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Fine. So we have got a software as a service. If you can have a look at that, I will also share in the chat box the URL so that you can also open it at your own end. So it's called cloud.gov.in. You can open it your own system also. It's one of the good Meghraj cloud designed and developed by the NIC, where they provide all kind of services, software as a service, infrastructure as a service, and a platform as a service as such. So that is one of the good thing which we can actually have a look, and we can understand and we can appreciate, not only understand the kind of the work being done by the government of India for providing these kind of services. Another good work which is being done and I really appreciate is by the CCICI, which I already shared earlier also. So it's called Cloud Computing and Innovation Council of India. They're also doing a very good work. So I'll just give a brief idea about them also. I've shared the URL in the chat box. You can copy and paste the same URL on own systems also. So if you open the portal of the Cloud Computing and Innovation Council of India, on the fourth hyperlink, there's an option called membership. And then there are two kind of membership which are available for us, depending on institutional membership as well as the individual membership as such. So we can accordingly see in which category we fall in and we can go for it. Then there are certain working groups also, which talk about the IoT and the CC cloud computing domain, in which the Cloud Computing and Innovation Council of India actually work in. Then there's a very good lab called